these sessions are really designed to be interactive and therefore kind of cater to the people who are actually taking part. So please forgive me if you're watching the replay and perhaps you feel that perhaps the class is moving on too quickly, perhaps the class is not quite addressing the issues that you have. I'm quite happy to help out. All you have to do is to let me know what you need. Now, what we're going to do right straight away is to kind of have a quick recap of what sort of things we were thinking about last week. Last week, put my glasses on. Last week we kind of thought about 3 components to what makes our voices work. We talked about the fact that we need the power source. Hi Grace, good, fantastic. With 3 components, we need our air, our power source, which is our airflow. The second component that we need is our vibration, which are our little vocal folds doing their mucosal thing, the resonator, and that is your vocal tract. So that's everything that sits above where the larynx is. So that's the back of your throat, going right up into your nasal area, okay? And this is very important because that's your resonating chamber that picks up all the vibrations in your skull as a whole. So those are the 3 things we were talking about last week. And last week we dove in, we did all the essentials. We were thinking about getting in the zone and your airflow, breathing, NG hums, resonance into the vowels. We're working more on vowels now, okay? And I mentioned things like we become preoccupied with range. Our range. What is my range? What is my voice? Okay, well, you just have to make sure that you don't get too kind of blind to what your range might be. Okay, keep it nice and free and easy in a vocal technique top up. And also I mentioned something we talk a lot about in Virtually Vocalise, though not so much these days because it was kind of flavour of the year last year, and that was drop off. This is where your energy falls away and you're leaving your voice very much to work on its own. So when you're doing a vocal technique top-up session, when you're on your own, that's what you're hoping not to have happen, that you don't drop off. This is all about vocal well-being as well. You know, we hold a lot of our emotions in our throats, and in our bodies as well, you know. So you've got to be careful when you're doing vocal technique that you are not trying to sing on too much of a fat sound. So you're not trying to make a lot of volume, you're just trying to winkle out what's happening with your voice, remembering that we are our instrument. Okay, and here's a fact, a top fact, a did you know question. Did you know that if the jaw is not free, it doesn't give your tongue enough workable space? Now here's, just think about that. If your jaw is not free, that means relaxed, it doesn't give your tongue enough workable space. And what we work on in these kind of vocal technique top-up sessions is getting all of those little components in the right place. So we're going to continue right now, get down to the exercises straight away, whizzing through a little bit at the beginning, some of the initial stuff, unless you specifically ask me to slow down. So maybe spend a moment and tell me what your focus is for today. Is it just, you know, Debbie, you're getting ready for your teaching, I know that, and it's on your birthday. Are you teaching today on your birthday? Sophie, what's your focus? Grace, lovely to have you here, but what's your focus? Or do you just want me to guide you through a warm-up that I would normally do? First and foremost, we think of our posture. If you're sitting down, that's great, it's fine, but you just have to be aware how your body is responding to being sat. Okay, you're still thinking up and out, and still very aware of the muscles in your abdomen. Okay, your abs should be quite soft. We tend to think about when we think about support, that word, we tend to tense up our abs, our abdomen, and what you should have is a nice kind of alert sort of status quo down there, but not pushing against things. Okay, so Need to be aware of that as well. Okay, so Grace is just going to follow. We've got Sophie is still thinking about her onset and alignment. So Sophie, for you, this idea about the solar plexus, you know, how we brace ourselves as people. The thing that Sue Louie is always talking about, you know, she's talked about a lot in our group, Virtually Vocalise, about where she feels the point of success with posture is by having this idea of slightly leaning forward. Okay, and that kind of frees up our solar plexus, the front of our bodies, and we tend to rely more on our backs. Okay, breathing exercise. Let's just go straight into that, assuming, or you could do it whilst you're doing the breathing exercise, is to have a bit of movement in your body as you settle into the breathing. So first of all, let's just get rid of all the old air. Okay, and now allow air in. And just let it go without dropping off. Okay, keep your body. Okay, now let the air come back in through an open mouth. And now, how did you get on? Okay, now I was very aware of my back, especially during the second exhalation. Okay, and that, remembering everyone that the exhalation, the sound you're making here is not just an idle hiss. It's not passive. It's actually more energized, more like a pressure cooker. And I did this to show that you should have a feeling down here of sort of resistance. Right, straight into, we're going to do our lip trills next. Okay, these are great because they invigorate, they require body engagement. So you can be thinking about all of the things you need to think about whilst doing your lip trills, remembering, like last week, it's not about air pressure blowing the air, but more kind of a sound oriented thing. Not that's too much air. See how you do. We're going to do a sequence of fifths, nothing too high. Here we go. Ready? And just a few more. A couple more. Last one for the moment. Now, if you're getting lots of vibrations around here, which I always do, especially with my glasses on, it's good. Okay, so that was just very medium, nothing too high. So thinking about range, we're still sitting in a very comfy range for most people. Okay, and in a class like this where we've got lots of different people tapping into the resources, we're not going to make it too difficult for everyone. Okay, so now do our octaves. This time though, and if you can't do lip trills, what I suggest you do is you do something like a rolled R, if you can do them, or you could do a hum, an NG hum, or an open-throated hum. That has its own issues because you can squeeze the lips together and that's not good for constriction. So I like the if you can possibly do it, because it serves itself very well, and us. Here we go. So octaves now, a little bit more speedy. Here we go. Ready? And nice and even. 2 more. Good. In F major, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do okay, now what we're trying to do, all of us, because I'm also warming up my voice, is I'm trying to keep the sound nice and even, and so I don't drop down in sound. This coming down like this is where we often drop off, where we allow our energy to sap as we slide down. So you've got to keep it very constant. So last week I said always think laterally, never up and down. Okay, and you can use all sorts of mind games to do opposites. Okay, anyway, let's go back to F major. Now we're doing our descending octave lip trills. So we're doing this. Okay, now in between each one, you're just resetting. No major, huge, and certainly not like that, because you're just going to lock these muscles and prevent really deep breathing. Here we go, ready? And just a couple more. Last one. Okay, so then we have descending lip trills, and we got down, but down to an E flat that was, folks. So already, in a very gentle way, yet energized, because remember, we are our instrument. It doesn't work on its own. We are the powerhouse. Our breath, our airflow is the power. Okay, your vibrations are set up by your little tiny vocal folds, and then you have your resonance and ping and sound coming in your resonator box, which is your vocal tract. How did you get on with the lip trills? Going down, did you find yourself, how was that for you? Okay, right, we're moving straight on. Just feel free to comment. I will see them come in and I'll pick up on them every now and again. All right, so thinking scientifically, we've already got our engine, our powerhouse going. We've already got some vibrations going with our lip trills, and we've already sent some sound up into our vocal tract, which is coming and vibrating, and we're getting all these kind of vibrations telling us. Okay, next we're going into our NG hums, but we normally do bottom to top, and this time we're going to switch it around, go back up here. Perhaps not, well, we won't do that, because I know we've got a few people, possibly newbies, watching this at a later point. Let's just start back down here and just think about this whole idea. Our did you know point for today is, if you do not give the tongue enough workable space with a nice flexible jaw, it won't have enough space to do its thing, and you'll get what we call constriction. All right, think about the closeness, scientifically, think about the closeness of your jaw to the tongue and then the larynx. It's like a marriage of those three things, and they do not like being parted, remember, but we want them to be independently able to do their thing. Okay, so let's just do our NG hums, and here is where we think about the jaw. Okay, we're going to do octaves. Okay, now for Sophie, onsets here will be really important, and not to let your jaw close too much. Okay, you want a bit of a gap there. Here we go, you ready? We're going to do octaves. And again, nice and even, not suddenly pushing the sound for the top. Here we go, and last one. Okay, now if you managed to stay with me until the very end, that was a top A flat. Okay, so what you're aiming for, and I've got some notes here, I'm telling myself to make sure you understand the reason why sometimes people find range a bit of an issue and say, oh, I can't sing that note, is because there's tension in here. When you think how small the larynx is, I mean, the vocal folds themselves, the little bits of sort of tissue that actually make contact, they're only 3 to 6 cells thick, very tiny, size of your fingernail, and they are responsible for all the vibrations setting up, which is why onset, the moment your vocal folds come together to make sound, is so important. But this is a long singing journey, folks, and you have to have patience and just focus on the joy of singing. So you've got to make sure that your jaw is nice and relaxed and that you've always got a bit of a gap between your teeth as you're singing, okay? That does not mean pushing down here, all right? Pushing down your jaw. And I can feel, if I do that, I can feel tension under here. So you don't want that. You want like a kind of, feeling, where you just drop your jaw, or when you fall asleep, you know, and you let your mouth just drop. Okay, and that's so that the root of the tongue can be relaxed. Okay, we did a lot of work on this last week, and of course if you're in any doubt, anybody watching the replay and you don't know, so Mari, perhaps when you watch the replay or catch up on other stuff, go to the units in the virtual studio. The units are all set out with kind of explanatory videos to help the jargon. All right, so we're going to move on because NG hums are very important. And the exercise we're going to do next is, because I want to move on in this half an hour, we're going to do the NG hums and introduce the vowel sequence coming down. Okay, so again, we're only going to stay in a nice comfy area. I'm going to do a sequence of vowels. A, E, O, U. And notice that I'm really trying hard to relax my tongue forward. You'd only do this in a vocal technique, top up, warm up, just trying to get your vocal folds going. Why am I sticking my tongue forward? I'm not really pushing it, I'm allowing it. It's because it releases and relaxes the root of my tongue. Okay, it releases it. So that's why I'm focusing on singing ooh, ooh. I'm thinking ooh, but I'm just allowing my tongue to come forward. Okay, it's quite important. So what we're going to do is you notice how my mouth did not change. It stayed the same and I just let my jaw hang. Let's do some. Here we go. All right, just a sequence. Here we go. And next one, air. Here we go, ready, and so what you don't want, Sophie, is to let your jaw close as you come down. Ready? Here we go, and that was E. Let's do another E because it's the hardest. Why is it the hardest? It's because we want to spread the vowel E wide. That way. But actually that, you can feel how that pulls there, and we don't really want that. So we want to think the vowel E, which means the back of the tongue comes, it's quite high at the back of your mouth, meeting the soft palate, which is the little thing, the little uvula at the back. That's the soft palate, that sort of fleshy bit of tickly muscle. And we don't want anything other than this E is difficult because it's the smallest aperture at that point. E, E. So the front of my tongue is forward and down. The back is kind of making a really nice small aperture for the E without going E. Okay, here we go. Let's do another E then. Here we go. And okay, now comes A-E-O, as in hot. Here we go, and just have a little sip, got a bit of a tickle. Next and lastly comes ooh. This is the one where you think tongue. All right, what is my tongue doing? Excuse me. How much space is it giving me? Okay, so where are we? Here we go, ready? And now you wouldn't sing it like that completely, but it just gives you the feeling of the creating the shape in the back of the throat, really. So that's food for thought. Okay, now I want to push on because we're coming into the last 5 minutes. We've done breathing, we've thought about posture. Remember, all of this has been covered in previous technique top-up lives. Just revise. They're quite useful in that you can follow the sequence through. So over a period of a week, say, you could watch all three, and each not necessarily on the same day, but you could watch all three and have 3 separate sort of goes at your vocal technique and understanding it. There's no singing teacher in the world who has a magic stick and a nice black hat or even a white rabbit. You've got to work at it. It takes time and patience, and this is all to do with vocal care, especially as we get older. Lots of people, when they're younger, they can do all sorts of pyrotechnics, but as we get older, we have to be a little bit more careful as to how we treat our voices so that we can sing into our dotage with not a care in the world. That's my goal. Okay, all right, so now this new exercise I want to try and do, we've done the incremental one, we've done this exercise, and you can go back to last week's technique top-up live because we did the incremental but today I want to do the 9-note scale. Okay, now this might be a bit tough if you've not met this sequence of vowels before. It's not always R, E, or oo. In some of our exercises that we do within Virtually Vocalise, and I have done for so many years, we alter the sequence to E, R, or oo. Because they naturally, shape-wise, follow on from each other. E, R, O, oo. So this is the 9-note scale, and that's what we're going to finish on today to whet your appetite and give you food for thought during the week. So this is the sequence. It goes E, so I'll do it slowly. E, and because it's a scale going up, you might on the downward journey experience good old drop off, unless you use that what I told you a few minutes ago about playing psychological tricks on yourself about being opposites. So although we're starting down here and climbing, you might think in your head or even with your finger trace the opposite. keep it nice and level. See how you go. If you get stuck on the vowel sequence, just sing one. Alter it, change it, but just try. Here we go, ready? So this is to finish the class. Here we go, ready? And new onsets, Sophie. Little tip here. Once you've got it, this is where you can actually start to use that little idea of engaging your abdominal muscles in a different way by leaning slightly forward, as if you were leaning into a stiff breeze. Okay, give it a whirl. Here we go. And last one, folks. So you have to ask yourself, did that feel equal? Did it feel, did it get tighter towards the top? Or did it feel fairly okay? Now we started down here in B flat major, okay, but the last highest note we sang was a top G. And my aim as a singing teacher is to make sure that all singers can have that sort of range easily within their voices, whether they think they are tenors, basses, you know, within their actual, what's the word I'm thinking of? Their tessitura, where their voice naturally sits. They should have at least, what's that? About an octave and a half. Easy range for warm-ups like this, okay? If you were, the further along your journey that you go, the more complex things can become. But when you're doing a short warm-up technique, top up, then this is all you need to do. And encourage you, if you've not done some of these exercises before, when you're watching the replay, do come back to them frequently. Don't try and do it all in one sitting if possible, because the brain just doesn't absorb things like that. And with singing, what you want is the coordination of all of those, the sum of the parts all coming together. Okay, now next week I'll make a note to myself that we will look at putting consonants in front of some of these vowel exercises, pitched consonants like n. Okay, do give me some feedback if you've got any issues, vocal technique issues that you want me to address perhaps next week as a new person. Perhaps just put your comment in the conversation thread underneath this video that will now be on the timeline within the virtual studio, and I will make notes. Okay, all right, have a lovely day and more from me very soon. Bye for now.